All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's message from the Minista is the fall of the ignorant. The fall of the ignorant. This week's message from the Minista is about preparation, being prepared, and also being aware and what we should focus on. While the ignorant are falling, how do we get ourselves prepared? How do we endure through that? I want to welcome y'all here. Wow, last week was just, there was all this action and activity going on for Hiphoppa Appreciation Week. And what a fabulous week it was for everybody all over the world. Especially for the Temple of Hip Hop and the growth of the Temple of Hip Hop, to put that out into history as well. Last week I have an album that I'm putting out soon. And, I had needed to take some time and focus on that album, where it wasn't just like a few hours this day and then wait 4 or 5 days and a few hours the next day or a couple hours here and there. I needed to really take that time for that album to go 3 days in a row, really just making the changes that needed to be made on the album itself, the final mixing, the final tuning, the final mastering, the final edits, so on and so forth. And so I thought, what a great week to practice what I preach. I'm always saying you gotta make the time, for your purpose in life and really for your craft, for your elemental expression. As an MC, it's very therapeutic for me when I rhyme, or when I record music, or when I write, or whatever it is. And so I've had this album that I've been working on, for a little while, and just kind of piecing it together here and there, but concentrating on it, knowing the stream, but just with so many other things that I like to do in life, it was just part of the process. But then I was like, I haven't really heard this album in a car stereo all the way through yet. I haven't heard this album through my phone all the way yet, or my small computer speakers, or my bigger studio monitors. And so as an artist, I just wanted to say this and shout out to all the artists out there. That's kind of the testing that I do, or that artists do. I learned it from the teacher. He said, listen to it in cheap car speakers, listen to it on headphones, listen to it on all these different formats, and get the mix right in each one. I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, I just spent last week for Hip Hop Appreciation Week adding value to the Hiphoppa. How do you preserve hip hop? By preserving the Hiphoppa. So I was like, I've got to add some value to myself. This album is fire. This album is dope. Let me give this album the time and energy and focus that it needs, so I could put the best album forward that I know I've ever created and have ever written, with many more to come. But so I took that time last week and took a long drive, like a 3-hour drive, put Liberator on, and then put the new album on. The new album's a surprise. The name of it's a surprise. I put them both on and I was listening to it, and so then I took mental notes while I was driving about what songs I needed to make certain adjustments on. Did that mix, then went and listened to it through the phone, the iPhone, and that one's too loud, that one needs to be adjusted a little bit, adjusted those, threw the headphones on. And see, this is the thing, is you can't just do this all in one day, because your ears have to adjust to different environments. Sound changes to different environments, music changes in different environments. And there's a great book by David Byrne, the singer from the Talking Heads, called, I believe it's How Music Works. I'll put it up there just in case I got the title wrong, but it's called How Music Works. And he talks about how sound in different environments, he specifically talked about rap and hip hop, and how it was born in the club, and how hip hop sounds so good and rich in the club, but you could put a giant orchestra in the club, but they sound good in the auditoriums that were created for the orchestra. And it's interesting because the auditorium's created for the orchestra, hip hop is created for the club. And not that hip hop hasn't expanded out to arenas and stadiums and all of that, but from my experience now, from my first-hand experience with hip hop, and I'm sure there ain't gonna be no disagreement here, but hip hop is greater in a club than in an arena. The club is where it's at for hip hop. So the point being is that sound changes in the arena that it's in, right? And we're all made of sound, so we change our frequencies. We look different in certain arenas, or sound different in certain arenas than in others. And so, as you're listening to your album while you're making something like an album or a song, and you could be listening to it through the really nice studio monitors. Your ears are adjusted. The sounds of the monitors. You got them just set just right, and it sounds wonderful. Then you go and throw it on in the car, and it sounds completely different. And you're like, oh man. And it used to, oh man. I remember being like, how do you make it sound the same in this and this? And it's part of the learning process. But I say all that because part of that learning process is the same thing that we all go on through life, And this is why I believe, and why we teach at the Temple of Hip Hop even, that skill mastery, especially one of the core 4 elements, breaking, MCing, graffiti, DJing, mastery of one of those core 4 elements leads to the mastery of self. Because what happens is when we master something like, say, MCing, since I'm talking about MCing, as we master something like MCing, okay, we will be showing ourselves a blueprint, a map of how to master pretty much anything in life through the experience of what we would call trial and error, making mistakes, turning them into wisdom, the learning process. All of that goes into it. And it's a constant process too as an MC. I learned new things just yesterday. As I was listening to music and listening to the sound and listening to my voice and what I wanted to do. I learned something new yesterday, so we're always learning something new. But, the reason that this fits into our title of Message from the Minista tonight is because part of this learning process, part of the mastery of our craft, part of the mastery of ourselves more accurately, we are going to inevitably, wholeheartedly, every single 100% of the time, when we're on our purpose, when we're on our right path, we're going to come across haters. We're going to come across scoffers and doubters and those who don't believe in us. And we'll find people who do believe in us, and we'll find those who do encourage us. It's not a one single strain experience, like it's a multidimensional experience. But that adversity to really get the sweet nectar out of the mastery of oneself or the mastery of one's knowledge or craft comes through endurance. We have to be able to endure through the hatred of others, through the negativity of others, through the sabotage even at times of others. And through that, we give it what we call, one of the divine performances is perform patience. And we talk about patience a lot. We talk about how patience is the governor. Even Edgar Cayce says that, the 3 dimensions are time, space, and patience. So with those 3 dimensions in mind, time, space, and patience, across all time and space, no matter where you are in the so-called future, no matter where on earth you are in the so-called future, we are all here together in this time and this space, right here in the everlasting now in spirit. And it requires a certain level of patience to remain here. Those who want to remain in spirit, it takes a certain level of discipline as well. So as the audience, we notice one another. The audience grows and shifts each week. Even the space changes around this physical environment. There's a brand new temple door that came in since the last message from the Minista. So even the space, the dimension of space has changed. The space is literally changed in here. And I was thinking about that this week, I've this is what, number 64, 65, something like that, a message from the Minista. And, there's been a few weeks I've missed. I've skipped a few times, 3 or 4 times. And, I always felt like, wait, I just recorded it. Now here I am doing it again. But these last couple of weeks was just different. Time was moving different since that last blood moon and the beginning of Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Time has moved a lot different In my summation, in our favor, different, like, time's always been moving in our favor, but like this last shift of time, like the frequency of time, like God's really setting us up for victory. But that victory is going to require endurance, because the fall of the ignorant, as we'll read in the gospel, is inevitable. And while we are rising to our purpose, while we are rising to the highest vision God has for us, oftentimes, the fall of the ignorant can hinder our growth. However, it won't hinder our growth if while that's happening, while the fall of the ignorant is happening, we're given a divine performance. We're mastering our craft. We're mastering our word. We're mastering ourselves. We're mastering our diet. We're mastering our health, love, awareness, and wealth, and so on and so forth. Those human skills that we really master, gardening. Gardening is going to come big in the future. Everybody's going to love gardening. Gardening is going to be like the biggest, newest thing, even though it's the oldest, most ancient of all things. It's already becoming that. Urban gardens, suburban gardens, country gardens, mountain gardens, desert gardens, gardens. But while that's coming back, and while the fall of the so-called New World Order is happening, we are on the rise right now. But as we're on the rise, we have to perform patience with this rise. We have to be prepared. We have to endure and be prepared. And we're going to read tonight endurance and prepared, be getting prepared, what it means to be prepared. Because, a lot of times we use words, but we know the definitions, and sometimes we read the definitions and they're like just an affirmation of what we already knew about that definition. And other times we read the definitions and they get a whole deeper meaning. And, I've talked about it a little bit, but, I've noticed in the American Heritage Dictionary, the 3rd edition that we've been reading from, there's actually some metaphysical concepts in certain words, and we'll see that tonight. I'll show you that tonight. Something new I've noticed as we've been studying the dictionary for the past couple of years, we notice that there's a metaphysical meaning behind each definition. And what is the metaphysical meaning of endurance? The word endurance has the word dura in it, durable. Duracell batteries are supposed to last the longest because of endurance and Duracell. They would have been even a more powerful name to call it Enduracell. And that endurance, the durability of things, is really what, the new humanity that's being born is going to be about. Because here in 2022, especially in the United States of America, there's never been a softer version of humanity than in the United States of America right now. The United States of America is the softest group of people who has ever existed on earth. And not all of us, some of us is hard as fuck, but on average, I'm talking about, on average. And by soft, I mean, everybody's soft with their feelings, soft with their muscles, soft with their diet, soft with their discipline, soft with their divine performance, really. And they're the ignorant that we have to be prepared as they're falling right now, the fall of the mainstream media. Nobody trusts the mainstream media, the Republicans or Democrats. The polls are out. People do not trust the government. It's at the lowest it's ever been. The government's the softest it's ever been. And by soft, I mean soft when it comes to, they don't say no to corporate politics. They're completely run by technocracy and all these other things. But once again, this is what we're speaking about here when we're talking about the ignorant and the fall of the ignorant. Now, those same people, those same ideas are in our neighborhood. They're in our schools. They're at our job place. They're in our work environment. They're all around us at times. Ignorant people are everywhere. And, it's interesting here because we did talk about ignorance as being the mystery, not knowing as the mystery. But what we're talking about here tonight, let's just be more specific, is denial of the truth type ignorance. Not just not knowing the truth or having access to the truth ignorance, but seeing the truth, hearing the truth, and ignoring the truth. That kind of ignorance, ignoring the truth ignorance. That's the fall. That's the inevitable fall of that ignorance around us that's happening right now. For those of us with eyes to see and ears to hear, let us get prepared for where we're going. We are going to the promised land, to the promised land. I hope you are ready. So what does this mean, you know? What does this mean in our lives, in our day-to-day lives? Because, yeah, we can see the bigger picture, but in our personal lives, like, what are you dependent upon? You know, what is it that we're dependent upon? What are we, not just financially, not just emotionally, but spiritually, what are we dependent on? What are you more specifically dependent on spiritually? Is it like, spiritual quotes from Facebook? Is it the YouTube feed? Is it your church? Is it just yourself? Is it your inner being? Is it the God force within you? Is it that hip hop spirit, that hip hop sight within you that's guiding our direction? Because I'll tell you what, once we learn who we are, like as what we would call an individual, the I am, when I first said like I am hip hop many years ago, back in 1998 when I first heard it on I Got Next, boom. I started just becoming one with that philosophy. At first it was just the album for 3-4 years, and then it was I Got Next, and then it was finally the Gospel of Hip Hop came out, and all of this happened. But over that time, I was saying, what does it mean to be I am hip hop? And I started realizing that all these things in my life that I really was attracted to not through lust or want or even need, but attracted to through like the law of attraction, the so-called law of attraction, but more like the law of breath magnetics, like just what I breathe and want, like Tai Chi. Like when I learned Tai Chi, I was like, wow, I'm really drawn to this, drawn to Eastern philosophy and Bruce Lee and then Bob Marley and Martin Luther King and KRS-One and drawn to these things. Like I started realizing like, as a multidimensional being, when I say I am hip hop, I got a certain sight over all of these things, and they all come together in who? In me. I'm the expression of all those different so-called sounds and different ideas, but I'm the expression of those in me, just like you are those different expressions of those things that influence you, but more importantly, those things that inspire you. Those things that inspire us, that's our hip hop right there. Holy inspired people have an omnipresent power. Get that inspiration, you know what I'm saying? Like that inspiration of who you are, those things that you are like not just tempted by, not just lustful after, but those things that like inspire you, inspire your heart, inspire your higher self, inspire that God force within. That's the things that need to be paid mind to and given attention to. Those are the things that as we build them up, as we master those things, as we, focus upon those things, that's what builds the endurance. That's what makes us durable. Why? Because the universe is super intelligent. God is so intelligent that the living intelligence of God is only going to have you inspired by those things that are good and healthy for you. But that's the crux of the matter on some level, because most people don't really know what it is to be inspired, or if it is even okay to be inspired without having somebody else say, oh yeah, you can be inspired by this, but not inspired by that. Television advertising, be inspired by the latest car, be inspired by the latest product. That's not inspiration. That's just them trying to get you to buy their shit. But when we talk about like real inspiration, what is it that makes your heart warm? Sin don't make your heart warm. Sin makes your heart cold. What makes your heart warm? Doing the right thing makes your heart warm. Makes all of our hearts warm, doing the right thing, not the wrong thing. Good makes our hearts warm, not evil. And we got to be really honest with ourselves, like, what does that really mean? Because the mind can be tricky. The brain, more accurately, the intellect can be really tricky, especially with the programming from all these years of the television, all this other hoopla that goes into our programming through the school system, blah, 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 television, radio, blah, 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 all of that, government, politics, all of that. This programming goes into our head, and we're kind of told what's supposed to inspire us and what's not to. And then we say, oh, this really inspires me, but is it okay for me to do? Is it okay for me to follow my purpose? Is it okay for me to say, yo, I quit my job and follow my purpose? Is it really okay for me? See, that's the intellect. It's almost like there's this little police force inside of some people's heads. I used to have it in my head until I banished the police out of my own head. That we police ourselves, we police our minds, we police our thoughts. And then it's almost like we live in our own self-imposed prison. Because that's all it is, it's self-imposed. Like all of that media, all that trillions of dollars and countless hours is to create a self-imposed prison because they don't have enough manpower, hours, or resources to really create a one world government, new world order prison. And it took me a while to realize that, but I realized it too many years ago. I just, kept questioning it. But like if the new world order could have happened, it would have happened by now. But shift the thinking now. Because it's really important for us to realize that like this digital prison, this is a self-imposed prison now. A self-imposed prison that people are living in. And it happened through, the what do you call it? The Reformation and the murdering of native tribes and the establishment of, different religions and the dominance and all of that craziness that happened, especially over in Europe. So people started just policing their very nature of who they are and what they are because of government force. You might get killed for thinking like a certain way. You might get killed for being a certain way. And although that actually existed, hear me out, although that existed, that whole time, a whole other life existed simultaneously with that. Well, those who were living as slaves, there was free people living around from the same so-called nationalities. Just like right now, there's like slaves to the New World Order and living in a self-imposed prison, but at the same time, there's those of us who are free. What's the difference? It's perspective. It's knowing. It's awareness. It's focus. It's hip-hop. It's intelligent movement. So never think that it's just one way. Everything is always something else with the mind to see. Everything is always something else. That's the hip-hop site. Everything is always something else. What else could it be? What else could this room be? It's called a living room. No, it's called a temple. This is a temple of hip-hop right here. I can speak for hours about everything on this wall here. This is an archive behind me. I'm the living archive. I'm the living ministry archive, school, and society of hip hop. And we make a choice each and every day of who or what we're going to be. We wake up in the day, we speak to the intelligence of our day, we ask our day how we'd like it to present itself to us, and it presents itself to us just as we want it to. Regardless if we're aware of it or unaware of it. People wake up in the day and they go, oh man, I hate this job. I hope I ain't late. Oh, my leg hurts. Oh, my stomach's upset. Oh, I need more. This coffee ain't good. Oh, this traffic sucks. And then they have that whole experience that day in and day out. And then there's the other way where you wake up and you're just like, yo, thank you, God, for the breath of life. Thank you for how life presents itself. Thank you for the lessons in life. Thank you for the so-called defeats that turned into wisdom. Thank you for the victories, which is the wisdom. Thank you for the insight you've given, God. How may I serve you today, God? How can I help you today, God? I just see myself living in health, love, awareness, and wealth, peace, and prosperity today. Just that right there, and meaning it and feeling it, then that sets the day in motion, and that's what you have. You have the experience of health, love, awareness, and wealth. It's just that simple. A self-imposed prison or a self-imposed paradise. Which one is it? It all depends on who you're listening to and who you're believing. It's that simple. I mean, it's really that simple. The fall of the ignorant, well, I'll tell you what, when we really get down to the fall of the ignorant, and why I really want to talk about this message is because the fall of the ignorant is the fall of our own personal ignorance as we rise in our enlightened selves, into our purpose-filled selves, into our higher selves. It's the fall of our own ignorance, and this is where we get prepared. See, because as the old world, I'll just give the extreme example. You're like, yo, I found my purpose and I got to quit my job. I quit my job. And so you go and you quit your job and you're all fired up about the purpose, and you quit your job with conviction and you feel all fired up. And then the next day you wake up and you realize like, yo, I don't have a job right now. I do have bills to pay. I might be homeless if I don't find a new way to make money, but I do got to focus on my purpose. What am I doing? What am I doing? You know? Your own ignorance is falling because you don't actually know. We don't actually know in that circumstance what it is we're supposed to do. So it gets really important there. Who are we listening to at that moment? Are we listening to God? Are we listening to the voice of purpose? Are we listening to the voice of truth? Or are we listening to the doubts and fears of others and their ignorance? Which one is it? It's a choice. And most of the time, we find ourselves listening to both simultaneously. And if it's 50-50, then we're living in the 50-50. If it's 70-30, we're living there. If it's 99-1, then we're living there. It's variables, you know. You just start moving with it. And it moves in waves, and you want to focus in on that true self that is focused in on that purpose, because there is a feeling, that right feeling, that heart feeling, that centered feeling that we feel. You know, Abraham Hicks would call it the vortex. Big up Abraham Hicks with the vortex. I call it hip hop. It's that hip hop side. It's just like this feeling, like right here, like it's like. I mean, you can feel it in all the so-called chakras, in these chakras, right? But it starts like right at the top of the solar plexus, and then it just goes right up through the heart, and then the throat just sits right on top of it, and then it just relaxes the other ones. But it's just this feeling right here in the heart center. Whew. And you can feel it inside as it vibrates outside. And you just, once you get that feeling, just pay attention to that feeling, nurture that feeling. Let that feeling be the only feeling eventually. It's going to take time. It's a growing process, a tree, you know. Heaven isn't a place we go to, it's a place we grow to. So we're all going to be growing in this process. And in earth, like the whole point of earth is resistance. Earth resists us for a reason. It resists our spirit and our soul for a reason. The same way the wind resists a small sapling, but as the little sapling grows with the wind, it gets stronger and stronger because of the resistance of the wind. And then it grows into a tree. And then when that sapling grows into a tree, that wind is still keeping it strong. And so that resistance right there, it's a natural part of our growth. It's a natural part of who we are. So we could call it an enemy, we could call it ignorance, but really it is resistance. And when we know that resistance is there to make us stronger, we learn how to flow a little differently. We learn how to move a little differently. We let it make us stronger. We don't let it snap us or break us or knock us over or uproot us. So as we learn who it is, and more accurately what it is we're tuning into, and for the sake of tonight's discussion, let's really talk about our purpose. Our own ignorance is going to be causing these winds. Like, I quit my job. Now I have to deal with the winds of quitting my job and this self-created prison that I was in. And now I've got to leave that. I'm not going to tell anybody to quit their job. I'm just using this as an example. And maybe some people are supposed to. I don't know. I do know that some people are supposed to. So this wind and this resistance of the fall of our own ignorance is happening, and then here we are getting made stronger into who we are and what our purpose is. It's really important that we focus on that voice of truth, that voice of God, and then that's what the endurance is. Now, this is where, like, take it all the way back to the beginning, talking about MCing as an element or the mastery of one's element. This to me was the key, because I found myself jobless. I found myself houseless. And I had I picked up odd jobs. I sold a lot of things that I had accumulated over time. I was hustling a little herb here and there, and I was finding my way financially, but I didn't have that old school job money coming in and week out. So I was making these adjustments. I was having to downsize quite a bit. But through all of that so-called shifting, through all that, the fall of my own old ignorance that had created that space for myself, I was getting stronger, but I was focused on specifically writing my rhymes, mastering my skill as an MC, simultaneously with this ministry, getting the knowledge, studying street knowledge, just digging into the philosophies, digging into the sacred scriptures, digging into the latest, sciences and epigenetics and studying, whatever it was that needed to be studied. But, as a holistic lifestyle, also, without a lot of money, I had to eat better. I started eating better I never had like a lot of money as a job, but I had job money coming in, so I ate a certain way. So now I'm shifting my diet completely. I'm shifting my exercise habit, my thinking habits, my routines, my meditation. Like, all of this is shifting. And as it's shifting, it's like you learn as you go along. And that's the endurance right there. That's the perseverance right there. You just learn as you go along. And you can hear, if you're a hip-hopper, grab that gospel of hip-hop, and you really got a valuable tool there. Like, you got this in your hand for this process. Like if you just got this one book in your hand with this process, it's going to really, it's going to help that process so much. It's going to be like fuel in your tank. Living that divine performance, living that H-law, studying what it is to move in endarkenment, knowing the seasons, knowing the culture, having a root back into the culture to work with, knowing who you are and what you are, like what kind of a people you are and where you fit in and who your family is and who your real culture is, and getting to define ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the art of self-creation. That's the art of hip-hop, and that's what the metaphysics, that's what this is a life, this book is like a life guide, right? What do they call them nowadays? They call them life coaches. This book is like having your own life coach from KRS-One right in your hand. Like, KRS-One's your personal life coach with this book. And so, I'm putting these to use, but I didn't even have this at the beginning when this was happening. I say that because part of the growth and part of the learning process was we got to make that book and put it out in the reality. But the reason that was able to happen was because, teacher was teaching me specifically, or teaching, the group of us, but I was listening to him, learning this, was how to self-create ourselves, how to endure through this. I mean, it wasn't no surprise that this, the storms of life were hitting, and then all this ignorance, my own ignorance was falling. And then I had all this outside noise from other people who was mad at me, angry with me, all of the old voices from school and growing up, and the system and society at large, and what's right and what's wrong, and the religions and all this saying what it is, all of that ignorance and voices. And not that there's no truth found in any of that, but what I'm saying is, like, all these doubts, these fears, these like demons coming at us, energetic demons coming at us. When we find that center, when we stay focused on that purpose, when you know who you are, when you're hip to your hop, you just flow with the wind. You just realize it's all just wind. It's all just noise. And what it's doing is going in that flow is it's just making you stronger and stronger, and growing bigger and bigger. Heaven ain't a place we go to, it's a place we grow to. So let's take a look at these definitions tonight. Let's get a little deeper meaning of what endurance is, and then also what perseverance is. So I'll put this up here on the screen first. There's endurance. It's funny, I said a different word, but it's being prepared. Preparation and endurance. So endurance. Now we'll just read endurance and to endure, and look at it from the eyes of the metaphysician here. Okay. The act, Perform action. Remember the act. This is a performance, is an act. We're giving a performance, a performed dance. The act, quality, or power of withstanding hardship or stress. The act, quality, or power of withstanding hardship or stress. Look at that right there. It's just letting you know right there. I say endurance is insurance. Because it is the quality and power of withstanding hardship or stress. You're going to face it, especially, like you're going to face it anyways. You're going to face stress anyways. You're going to face stress at a job you hate, or you're going to face stress living your purpose in life. Which is it that's more noble for you? Which works, since you're going to have to face the stress either way? Which one would you rather face? The stress that comes with living your purpose and mastering yourself, or the stress that comes from working a job that you hate? And I'm only using job as an example. Definition number 2 of endurance. A durable dance. No, but that endurance, I just realized the durable, and ants, the dance is in there too. The state or fact of persevering. So endurance is perseverance. The state or fact of persevering. Now we've read these in the past, so these may sound familiar to those of you who go back with Message from the Minista. But I like to bring certain words back again and again because it's important that we know these. These are key fundamentals in life. These are like foundations in our life. The state or fact of persevering. Definition number 3, continuing existence. The duration, often used to modify another noun, endurance events, endurance swimmers. But look at this 3, continuing existence, duration. Would keep continuing the existence of your purpose. That's what the endurance is. Continuing the existence and the duration of the purpose. Endure, to carry on through despite hardships to undergo. To bear with tolerance. See, you're going to have to bear with tolerance the ignorance around you, the ignorance from you and the ignorance from other people, the ignorance of the world. You're going to have to bear it with tolerance. Why? Because you got to focus and ignore the haters. Bear with tolerance. You tolerate what's going on while you're perfecting yourself while it's happening. We'll read that in the gospel. You'll see what I'm talking about. To continue in existence, to last. Endurance is to last. Number 2, to suffer patiently without yielding. Another key metaphysical mindset right there. To suffer patiently without yielding. That's Martin Luther King right there. That was his form of endurance. He suffered patiently without yielding. He did not yield his stance or his beliefs through his suffering. He was unyielding. Enduring, lasting, continuing, durable. See, there's that durable right in there. Durable, long-suffering, and patient. Endurance is a powerful, powerful ally. Now we're going to look at the other part of this too. Because while we're enduring, what creates that endurance is being prepared. But also we're preparing for the inevitable fall of the ignorant. We're preparing for the inevitable rise. I should say we're preparing for the inevitable fall of ignorance in our lives and for the inevitable rise of our enlightenment, of our enlightened selves, of our endarkened selves even, of our higher selves. And remember, once again, like I was saying earlier, this isn't the ignorance of not knowing or the ignorance of the mystery of that not knowing. We're talking about, when we're talking about ignorance, we're talking about willful ignorance. Remember, even at times we've been willfully ignorant. At times we've ignored the inner self because we've been conditioned to. But at the same time, we have to heed the call of that warm heart, of that warm spirit, of that insight of God. Because that's the power. That's the only empowerment that empowers everything else, including endurance. That power, that empowerment is what will prepare us. God will prepare you. And then that endurance is even better. It's like God preparing you for a camping trip, but laces you up with the finest camping equipment, like the most advanced, water-resistant, lightweight, durable camping equipment, you know? That's God's preparation right there. This is why it's best to be God-centered and not worldly-centered. Prepare to make ready beforehand with a specific what? Purpose for an event or an occasion. Look at this. The teacher prepared the students for the exams. To make ready beforehand for a specific purpose. This is how it relates to you. This is how it will relate to perform forgiveness. This is how it relates to purpose, literally, right here. To make ready beforehand for a specific purpose. So, while the ignorants are falling and you're preparing, you're being prepared for the actual divine performance and purpose you're about to give. So this is all you have to be doing. Definition number 2, to put together or make by combining various elements or ingredients, manufacture or compound. Oh, wow, that's dope. Look at the metaphysics again. To put together or make by combining various elements or ingredients, manufacture or compound. That's food. That's hip hop right there. And I'll tell you, to put together or make by combining various elements or ingredients, well, you have to be hip to know, you have to know what those elements, ingredients are. And combining those, that's the activity, that's the hop, that's the movement. So like I was saying earlier, like in my own personal life, bringing in the Bruce Lee and the Martin Luther King, this is hip hop, like it's straight hip hop. Well, most of us are like this. You got KRS-One, Bruce Lee, Bob Marley, Martin Luther King, Kwame Ture, Malcolm X, Tupac, Biggie, whomever else. We got these influences coming in from these so-called various arenas, but we're mixing it together and combining it. Like ingredients, the same with the music. Taking African rhythms and adding European horns. Taking heavy metal guitar and adding dubstep. Just all these so-called different genres of music, mixing them together like ingredients and coming out with a new compound. Manufacturing something different. Definition 3, to fit out, equip. Oh man, that's dope, to fit out. That might be a dope name for a song. That's a dope idea right there. Yo, you got fit out, man. To fit out, to equip. That means to be equipped, to fit out. That's like getting an outfit. Like I was thinking, like a soldier getting the equipment to go out and do whatever soldiering he's got to do, whatever weapons and armor, so on and so forth. Rations. Prepare, music, to lead up to and soften by means of preparation, a dissonance or its impact. That's interesting. So that prepare in music, classical music, is preparing us for this. It's preparing us for the next thing. That's how it just, that's how I read that, but it can be in any form of music, not just classical music. To lead up to and soften by means of preparation. To make things or oneself ready. Yep. Get prepared, my nobility. Get yourself ready. To study or complete a course of study at a preparatory school. Yep. Get that going. Pray, prepare, equip. So yeah, being prepared is to be equipped. So it's God equipping us. It's God preparing us for the inevitable, what's to come, which is our purpose, which we just read, literally. The first definition, prepare, was for purpose. And while we're being prepared, while the ignorance is falling, we just endure through that. And we just become durable. Why? We're being prepared. And that causes our durability. It's like jujitsu as an example. Like you just keep getting thrown on the ground, and sooner or later you just learn how to fall right, and you're getting prepared. So if you ever did get in a street fight and get knocked over, you fall the right way and you don't hurt yourself. Now, I never got in a fight and had to use jujitsu like where I got knocked over, but I did have an instance where a wheel was rolling off a mountain bike. I was riding down this hill on a mountain bike, and it was a cement hill. I wasn't even in the mountains, and the front wheel came off and rolled out, and the bike flipped over. And because of like just some jujitsu classes I took, and we just kept repetition, I was getting prepared in case I ever fell head first. I literally just went into, like, I didn't have time to think about it. It was just muscle reflex and memory. Boom, rolled with it, hit hard, hit the whole elbow, scratched it all up. But like my head hit my arm like it's supposed to, and I rolled with my shoulder, and I avoided damage. I avoided serious damage. I could have cracked my head wide open had I not had my arm ready for that. And thank God for that preparation. Thank God for that preparation. All those years in jiu-jitsu or, classes and hours of it, when I was younger, all of that was preparing me for that one moment that saved my life. It wasn't a fight. It was a fight with the earth. But I survived. I survived it. And that's how God prepares us ahead of time, though. So the things in life that are tough while you're following your purpose, that's God preparing you ahead of time. And it's tough going to a job you hate. So like what I'm saying earlier, like you're gonna face stress that we have to endure through. We're gonna have to endure through stress, right? We're gonna have to endure through stress whether we're at a job we hate or we're following our purpose. So just choose what stress you want to follow. And it really requires, we're not going to read Perform Faith tonight, but I would say that's some homework for this specific message from the Minista. It really requires a high level of faith and confidence in God. And that God has our back, that God has the ability to prepare us. Because God prepares us. It's not we don't prepare God, God prepares us. Most people want to manipulate God, but when God manipulates us, God prepares us ahead of time. Don't you want to be prepared ahead of time? Be manipulated by God, be prepared by God, or you want to be prepared by the world? I'm not even saying one's wrong or right, but I'm just saying I know what's wrong or right for me, and you know what's wrong or right for you. And I know I'm picking on the jobs, but it could be just an environment, a relationship, whatever it is that you just ain't vibing with in your life that may be causing you some kind of stress or anxiety that's keeping you from your purpose. So you start living your purpose, and that stress and anxiety might still be there from that same source, but you grow past that. There's going to be other stresses and other anxieties and other things that will cause the endurance, other winds that will blow you, because let's just look at it as wind. We want to take all these powerful, strong words, stress, anxiety, fear, anger, doubt, disbelief. We want to take all those words and just turn them into wind, because that's all they are, it's just a bunch of wind. And then that wind just blows the tree, and the tree is strengthened, is prepared. It's able to endure through whatever's happening in this environment. The rains come, it's nourished. The heat comes, it stays cool. Why? Because it's got the tree branches out and the leaves that keep the ground cool and keep its own roots cool. And then creates oxygen for us to breathe, consciousness for us to breathe. This is what life is all about, my nobility, and check this out. Like, the state of the world right now is exactly preordained by God, the Most High, creator of all that is. Everything is perfect the way it's supposed to be. And you have this sight, if you're living from that perspective. I ain't saying everything's okay. There's a lot of evil going on in the world that will stop soon. That's that fall of the ignorant too, so don't get it twisted. But while they fall, while the New World Order falls, those who stand with the New World Order will fall with the New World Order. Those who stand with the True World Order will rise with the True World Order. It's inevitable. It's physics. It's truth. It's God force. And that's the only force that there is. That's the only power that it is. So we just tune into true God force, to true God nature, to what we already have within us, what we were all created to be. Oh yeah, then we are that mighty tree. And we growing into the heaven that God created this earth to be. I had a colonizer come onto my Instagram page this week, and he's a troll who comes on once in a while. He's got a problem with the Temple of Hip Hop, got a problem with the teacher, got a problem with me. And usually I'm pretty patient with that. I could tell he's just an old dude drunk texting and shit. But, I just decided to pull the sword out this week, so I just started battling with him as the colonizer. And he tried to pull out some old Mosaic law from the Old Testament. I'm like, sorry, G, I'm hip hop. I don't live under Mosaic law. I don't got no problem with those who do, but me personally, I don't live under no Mosaic law. That ain't that. I don't live under that. 10 Commandments is cool. They got that from the laws of Ma'at. So I'm just saying. So you don't need to come on here colonizing me, trying to murder my ideas, trying to murder my faith, trying to murder who I am. But plus, I already know you're here to strengthen me. So let me battle you a little bit because I'm just tired of your arrogance and your ignorance. You want to talk Christ, but you anti-Christ. You want to talk God, but you are anti-God by your very nature of colonizing. Trying to make your ideas, force your ideas upon other people? That ain't no hip-hop. Hip-hop never has to force its idea on nobody else. Why? Because it's nature. It's natural. The hip-hop idea is just dope. You feel it inside of you. Nobody's got to force nobody to be hip-hop. Why? Because people want to be hip-hop. So people want to bring these old ideas and these old customs and these old, colonizations into hip-hop. Nah. I ain't putting up with that. I don't need to live under that. I've already superseded that. I'm superior to that. My mind is way beyond that. Sit here and tell me, a grown-ass man who's going to be 50 in a couple years, what I'm allowed to have my faith in, what I'm not allowed to have my faith in, and who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be about. I'm a shining light, my G. Like, I just keep getting brighter and brighter. And so does everyone around me. That's who we are. We're the lights of our world. So what, I'm supposed to put up with insults and things like that? Sure, yeah, bring them on. All right, because the sword comes out. The sword of truth. Don't let nobody be pushing you over. And choose your battles. Like I said, I knew the guy drunk texting me before. I know the guy, he's just sore and sad about some shit that happened years ago that didn't even have nothing to do with me. But pick your battles. That one I just knew God was like, you got to say something now. Pick your battles. Choose your battles. You ain't got to be battling everybody, everything that tries to upset you and argue with it. And no, you just endure, You just endure like Martin Luther King. Unmovable, unperturbable. Staying focused on that center, staying centered in that person, staying centered in the being. Boom, getting that b-boy stance and staying tall, staying strong. And yeah, that wind's going to blow, and I'm just going to blow with it. While my trunk gets stronger, my core gets stronger, my core 4 gets stronger and stronger, my elements get stronger. We mix and master ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We take these ideas with these thoughts and we just mix and master ourselves. Let's read from the Gospel of Hip-Hop. We're going to read what we're going to read from tonight. We're going to be rereading Perform Patience. This is the 4th or 5th time in 60 of these. So once every 10 messages from the ministers or so on, we read Perform Patience. I remember at the beginning talking about time, space, and patience, as Edgar Cayce called them, the 3 dimensions of time, space, and patience. Why? Because everything takes patience. Even when I was arguing with homeboy and I was making fun of him, it was just battle, like a battle rapper. I was still in my patience. I was still in my joy, in my heart. I was just making fun of him. I was just battling him, asking him why he thinks it's okay to belittle another man's faith. You can't argue faith. How are you going to argue faith with somebody? Somebody's faith is their faith. And if it's helping them be a better them, who is anybody to try and take that away? But nobody has the right to force their faith on anybody else or their God or their beliefs or anything on anybody else. That's the ways of the world. That is the colonizer, is forcing their way of life on everybody else. through coercion, through, extortion, through force, through threats, through murder, through just every form of evil. Hip hop ain't nothing like that. We're not trying to convince, coerce, or convert nobody. Why? Because the truth doesn't need that. The truth is the truth, whether or not you like me. Truth is the truth, whether or not that guy likes what I'm about. I don't care. Dude's corny. All right, let's read from the Gospel of Hip Hop, Perform Patience. Because this is important. You're going to see all these words that we just read right here in Perform Patience. This whole message tonight could have just been Perform Patience. But I thought the fall of the ignorant sounded more fun. And you'll see why. Divine performance number 6 from the third overstanding, the divine performance in the Gospel of Hip Hop, presented by the teacher, KRS-One for the Temple of Hip Hop. And I, Zin Uru, am a recognized spiritual and intellectual contributor in the Gospel of Hip Hop. That is how I am able to teach from the Gospel of Hip Hop. Perform patience. Practice expressing calm endurance. There's that endurance. Silent strength and inner resolve. That word right there, inner resolve. This right here, just practice expressing calm endurance, silent strength, and inner resolve. Those 3 keys right there, you might want to just write those and put those above your altar or where you see them every day. Calm endurance, silent strength, and inner resolve. These lead to patience. Be tolerant of others and their views, and always be willing to wait. Whatever is yours by divine right. Within the spiritual life, there is very little need to rush or be anxious. Simply ask and then wait in an expectant manner. Usually, what you do not receive is for your own good. Here, patience is the ability to be still and allow opportunity to fall into your lap. Do not run after opportunity. Only position yourself to receive opportunities. Usually, it is the righteous that remain still through the changes of the world in a strategic position, so that when the world unexpectedly changes again, opportunity falls into their laps. And it will happen, my nobility. It is the righteous that remains still through the changes of the world. This is that preparation. See, that's that preparation. It's being still and knowing God is that preparation. Remember that opportunity is not to be chased down. It is to be searched for. Opportunity is not to be hunted. It is granted. It is not taken. It is received. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to find strength in the things they already have. Read that again. Hip-hoppers are encouraged to find strength in the things that they already have. Well, you already have you, my nobility. Be patient. Even with ignorant, selfish people, be patient with them as well as with yourself, and prepare for the fall of the ignorant. It is inevitable. There it is. That is the title of this week's message from the Minista, the fall of the ignorant. I'm going to read that sentence again. Be patient with them as well as with yourself. See, the them in yourself, it's your own ignorance you're going to have to be prepared for as well as it falls. It is inevitable. The fall of the ignorant is inevitable. Sometimes the fall of the ignorant will temporarily hinder the rise of the Hiphoppa. In this case, the attuned Hiphoppa has already prepared, there's the word prepared, get prepared, for the inevitable fall of the ignorant through independence and a variety of divine performances, and rises while others are trapped under their own rubble. See, you will rise while others are trapped under their own rubble. In all things perform patience. Even with difficult people, be patient. No matter how ignorant or inconsiderate people may appear to be, always remember that ultimately everyone is growing, learning, and developing according to their own level of consciousness. And if they are not, then they will not be around you much longer. Be patient. See, if they ain't growing, they won't be around you much longer, my nobility. So those ignorant, they're that ignorant, well, through your patience, through your getting prepared, through your rise, through the fall of the ignorance, those some people, just be patient with them. Perform forgiveness because they're growing too. But if they're not growing too, and if they're really there harming you and damaging your environment and your people or what you're about or whatever it is, they won't be around there much longer. And that's not you that takes care of it. Maybe you do. But it's God. It's God who takes care of it. It's really physics. It's the way physics works. It's the way metaphysics works. The cream always rises to the top. The light always shines in the dark. So on and so forth. It's God who's preparing you, and it is God who is allowing their fall. And if they won't be around you much longer, that will be God's doing too. Some people will simply not see it your way. Be patient. You and they are always growing. Eventually, everyone sees the truth. However, everyone grows at their own pace. What is obvious to you today may not be so obvious to others. But if you stand in truth and in righteous humility, they shall eventually see what you see. Be patient. Everyone arrives at the truth eventually. See, so be patient with our own ignorance. Because we will arrive at the truth eventually. Be patient with the ignorance of others. Eventually, they will rise and they will be revealed the truth. Finally, we must continue the practice of being patient with ourselves. And this is the key, really, right here. This is what tonight's message from the Minista is about. Not so much about the ignorance of others, although we are aware of that. But this is really about us and our own growth. Finally, we must continue the practice of being patient with ourselves. Let us remain committed to our principles, performances, and disciplines. But let us not be too anxious to receive spiritual insight and power. All shall come in time. For we have seen for over 40 years that it does not matter how much meditation one does or how virtuous one may live. Spiritual insight and power happen on their own in their own time. You simply must continue your practice until you are granted the results that you desire. Be patient and learn the art of waiting. Like, look at this right here. You simply must continue your practice until you are granted the results that you desire. That's endurance. That's performing discipline. You simply must continue your practice until you are granted the results that you desire. Be patient and learn the art of waiting. The spiritual life is not the material life. It moves within its own time. When you are being delayed for some trivial reason, do not get upset or worried. Simply go with the flow. Go with the flow because your very steps are counted and guided by spiritual forces. Be patient. Be willing to wait. Practice performing patience while waiting in line. Practice patience with difficult people. Practice patience with your own spiritual development, with your career, with your children, with your parents. In all areas of life, learn how to apply the virtuous performance of patience. Many disasters have been avoided, and many have come to see the light by the correct use of patience. As the philosopher Carlyle once said, every noble work is at first impossible. Perform patience. Perform patience, my nobility. That's all we've got to do. It's like patience is like it's like oil in the car. Like, it makes the ride smooth. It lubricates all the movements of the car. It keeps the engine cooler. Even when the temperatures rise and it's moving faster and the RPMs are ramming up like that oil, a well-oiled machine. That's what that patience is. It's like the oil of life. it helps you smoothly move through any environment. Why? Because when we remain patient, when we be still and know that God is God, and we just sit there in our b-boy stance and we're just like, yep, it's windy right now. It's not always going to be this windy, but you know what? I like this wind because this wind is making my trunk strong. This wind is strengthening my branches and my roots. Oh, look how strong I'm getting from this wind. And then the wind isn't. There's just a little breeze. Sometimes the wind is whipping. But you made it through the breeze. You made it through the slow wind. And that wind is whipping around. And you're fine. You're dancing. Perform dance. You're giving that dance. And then it's sunny and it's nice. Or it's raining and it's chill. Whatever the season is, that patience, that endurance, that preparation from God, that ignorance that we're just going to call wind in our lives, it's going to be all around us, and we're just going to rise to the occasion. We're going to discover who we are. We're going to build Hiphoppa in our lifetime with that. And the fall of the ignorant, the fall of the world, the fall of the mainstream, we're watching it. They don't even realize it, or they do realize it. They're just, it's like the oppressor's never going to tell you that you won, that they lost. They're never going to come out and tell you that. Yeah, you guys won. You beat us. You outlasted us. And that was something I wanted to talk about. In the Gospel of Hip Hop later on, it talks about we must just outlast, endure past our opposition, those who oppose us. That endurance is our greatest strength in that way. So allow God to prepare us for that, and that's where our endurance comes in. I want to talk about this, and then we're going to read from the Tao Te Ching, and then we'll just have a close. I just have a little piece, a beautiful piece from the Tao Te Ching. It applies to this, but it's just something to ponder this week. But I want to talk about awareness and focus, because with everything that we're talking about, we got to be aware of what's going on in the world. We've got to be aware of what's going on in our outer environment. We got to be aware sometimes of evil, but we don't got to focus on the evil. We can focus on our purpose, but be aware of the bigger picture. Our purpose actually requires that we're aware of the bigger picture. And you can kind of practice what this is, because you can go from using our peripheral vision and just see the whole room as one giant thing, or we can focus in on the screen here. So our awareness is peripheral, our focus is on the screen. This is something in just kind of talking about jiu-jitsu again. This is a great life philosophy that learned in jiu-jitsu about focus and awareness. Being aware of the movements around us, but focusing on what it is our opponent's doing at the same time. So we're literally able to focus while using our peripheral vision at the same time. You can focus, and everybody's doing it. The eyes are built this way, but a lot of us aren't aware of it. So we can focus on the camera, but I'm still seeing the bigger picture too while I'm focused on the camera. So the awareness is there and the focus is there simultaneously. And with that awareness there, it'll cause, focus over here now. Okay, I'm focused over there, but I'm still aware of the peripheral vision. And I can't see behind us, okay? We can't see the past like that. We're bringing it with us into the future, what we see in front of us. So use that, like focus on your hand. And then while you're focusing on your hand, just see everything else you see in your room. Everything else you see in your environment. Practice really focusing on the hand. Now practice just really using the peripheral. Now focus on the hand. Now use the peripheral. And now just use them both at the same time. It's a fun exercise to do. I just wanted to share that as a practical metaphysical tool. Well, actually, it's physics. Metaphysics, it's amazing how they're so related. Using that as a tool is great. It's a great tool to develop. Helps your driving, and it helps your insight too, because our physical tools actually help our spiritual tools, just like our spiritual tools help our physical tools. Let's read from the Tao Te Ching to close. The Tao Te Ching by the Master Lao Tzu. This is the Shambhala Dragon Edition, translated by John C.H. Wu. We're going to look at chapter 16. I'll put it up here on the screen. As usual, when we read the Tao Te Ching, just looking at the beautiful Chinese lettering over here, the artwork that they are, these characters. Just always appreciate that, looking at that. And now here we see it in English, and we will read chapter 16 in closing. I think just feel this. Feel these words. I'm just going to read it straight through and feel how they apply to the fall of the ignorant and the rise of the Hiphoppa. That's actually what this will be called. It will be called the fall of the ignorant, the rise of the Hiphoppa. Attain to utmost emptiness. Cling single-heartedly to interior peace. While all things are stirring together, I only contemplate the return. For flourishing as they do, each of them will return to its root. To return to the root is to find peace. To find peace is to fulfill one's destiny. To fulfill one's destiny is to be constant. To know the constant is called insight. If one does not know the constant, one runs blindly into disasters. If one knows the constant, one can understand and embrace all. If one understands and embraces all, one is capable of doing justice. To be just is to be kingly. To be kingly is to be heavenly. To be heavenly is to be one with the Tao. To be one with the Tao is to abide forever. Such a one will be safe and whole, even after the dissolution of his body. That's where that wholeness comes in. This is where the preparation ultimately goes. That's what this life is about. It's preparing us. We endure through life, so when we leave this body, we leave into its wholeness, into our actual birth, our actual return. That's what all of these little things that we're doing, the following of the purpose, is preparing us for something even bigger, something even grander, something even greater. Our return. We leave this body and we return back into the breath that we already are, that's inhabiting this body. My nobility, we are the breath of life that is inhabiting the body, but we are the breath that inhabits the body, not the body. Yeah, we're the caretakers of this body, and we should take care of it, and we should appreciate it. It is our responsibility. It is our duty. We are the stewards of this body. Our breath is while we're here, but we are the breath, the living spirit that inhabits the body. And that, my nobility, that's what prepares us. That's the higher self. That's what knows the purpose. That's what feels right. That's what feels good. That's what makes a warm heart. That's what feels loving. That's what we're really magnetized and attracted to in our natural state of being, which is hip-hop is our natural state of being. A hip-hop is a natural human in any environment. So as you go forward this week, my nobility, in health, love, awareness, and wealth, peace and prosperity. Where is your purpose? Everywhere you're at, wherever you're at, ask yourself, where's my purpose right here? If you're at your job, where's my purpose? You're on the bus, where's my purpose in this environment? You're at the store, where's my purpose in this environment? Look for your purpose in all environments. Your purpose is looking for you. Your purpose is looking for you. And be prepared for the inevitable fall of the ignorant and the rise of you, the Hiphoppa. And there it is, my nobility.